you're right now, you're saving 0%, and you find out tomorrow, you take this episode, you go home and do a bunch of nerd math, and it turns out you need to be saving 20%. And you're genuinely afraid of going from 0 to 20. Start at 5%.
Yeah.
And then next month, go to 6%. The month after that, 7%. You can work your way up.
Yeah.
You know, don't take 30 years to work your way up. But over the course of a year, 2 years, play on that, getting used to your environment, getting used to living on the money that you are making, and get up to that, whatever that goal percentage is. And you're going to find it just from personal experience, from myself working with clients. I think you're going to find it a little easier than you think.
All right. Welcome to Money Therapy. We're excited to have you, and we're going to jump in. My name's Brandon Chasteen.
I'm Bill McGill.
And Bill, take it away.
Take it away. Well, guys, we're going to talk about today 4 easy steps to improve everything finance. And here's the headline, right? You ready for this? None of this is magic. There's no magic sauce here. There's no magic tips. You've probably heard everything that we're going to talk about today. And what we're talking about today is the fundamentals. Okay, we're talking about how to get started, how to keep the train rolling down the track, and how to achieve your personal financial goals.
And we're also going to disclose up front, too, this is hard work.
Yes.
It's not easy.
It's not.
It's hard work. This isn't a get-rich-quick tip. We don't have like exciting, colorful graphics popping up to distract you from what we're really trying to say. And it's boring.
Yeah.
Like it's not exciting. It's just hard work.
Yes.
So it's not brilliant. You probably already know it. And it's gonna be a lot of work. But let's dig in. 4 tips, right? 4 easy steps to being successful in your financial journey. All right. What do we got?
So this is, a couple steps down the process. We've talked many times in earlier episodes about goals and how important it is to first have a goal and figure out where you're going. Because if, we could be running really hard in one direction, but if we're not running in the right direction towards our goals, doesn't really do much good. Right. So you got to know what your goal is. You got to know where you're going, whether that's preparing for retirement, you want to buy a house, send the kid to college, whatever's going on. And today, again, this is after we've established that goal. Now, what in the world do we do? So,
and I think, too, when I'm sitting down with people, if I ask you, Bill, what do you want?
Yeah.
When I hear the question, what do you want? There's definitely things that come to mind.
Yes.
Some of them are feelings, but some of them are actual things, right? Like I want retirement. Like I do want to pay for my kids. I want my kid to graduate college debt free. Yeah. I would rather not pay for college, but I definitely want her to get through it and not come out with a load of debt. So that probably means I need to pay for it, right? Unless she gets all scholarships, would be awesome.
Yeah.
But of course, there's things that I want, and then sometimes there's things that I want that are just more of like I just want financial security.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to stress about my finances. I don't want to stress. I never want to worry about paying bills.
Yeah.
Right. But oftentimes when we sit down with somebody and you ask them the question, "What do you want?" Mm-hmm. They can give you a response on some level.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes they say the things they want and they don't know how to say the feelings that they want to it. Like that can be hard. There's some coaching there.
Yeah.
But oftentimes if I say, Bill, what do you want? You can tell me something you want. Now, if I ask the question, how do you get there? Now all of a sudden they're like, I don't know. And that's where the anxiety creeps in.
Yeah.
Right. So like when people say financial security, financial peace of mind, financial freedom.
Yeah.
I think what we're trying to actually be free of, when I think of financial freedom, I don't think of my ability to do anything that I want anytime that I want to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're we're insatiable creatures. We're always going to want more.
Right.
If I make $100,000 a year, eventually, that's not going to be enough. I'm going to get used to it, and I'm going to want 200. And if I get a pay raise and I make 200 grand a year, that'll make me feel good for a minute, but then it won't anymore. I'll need 300.
Yeah.
Right? Financial freedom is not about being able to do whatever I want whenever I want. It's about being able to get to where I want to be, free of anxiety, free of failure. And to your point, how do you get there? That if we can see a roadmap and have a plan, then we can eliminate, or we can't eliminate, we can reduce anxiety.
Yeah.
And I think that once we learn that we can be successful, the habit of success, that voice in our head that's like, you've done this before and you've been successful, starts to get louder than the voice of failure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think, so a little like off topic, something I thought about, there's this great book called Never Split the Difference. And it's written by a hostage negotiator, a retired hostage negotiator. And one of his stories is about, in dealing with hostage takers, how successful they were in getting those hostages back by just asking the person, like, how are we supposed to do that? So in other words, the hostage taker would say, hey, we want $1 million, and then we'll release the hostage. And they would just, well, how are we supposed to do that? And what they realized were, like, who's going to deliver the bag? Are we going to meet in the middle? Like, are you going to open the door? Are we going to open the door? Like, all those finite little details on how to do it, they had not thought out. And so that's what jumped out when we ask, people, what do you want? They go, I want this. It's like, okay, how are we going to get there? I never thought about that.
Right.
And so, if you're on the Sunday Series email, in the show notes that you get before this episode, it's really 4 easy steps. And, we're going to talk about the fundamentals on, we talk often about how we can construct a financial plan, and we also want to make it adaptive, because life is always changing, right? So one plan that we make for specific instances today is, in a year from now, is probably going to be way different. And that's why the fundamentals are so important. So the 4 fundamental steps that are on our notes here is, number 1, pay attention to your spending. I can't tell you how many people I talk to, 9 times out of 10, have no idea what they're spending on a month-to-month basis. Okay. Number 2, find wasted money. What a lot of people don't know is, if you start paying attention to your spending, you're going to find wasted money very, very quickly. Okay. So that's a little, kind of an attaboy. Step 2 is easier than you think it is. I'll put it that way. Step 3, automate your savings. Okay. This is probably the closest thing to a financial hack that we'll talk about today, but it's such an easy thing to do, and it puts you so far above and beyond what you thought you could do beforehand. And then step 4 is repeat, right? And that's where the goals come in. The automated savings, where, when we get to that point, you're going to direct towards a certain goal.
Bill, I know all that already.
Yeah.
Is it that, like, that's all I have to do?
Yeah.
Like,
that's it.
And that's the funny thing is, like, okay, so let's break these down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Pay attention to your spending.
Yeah.
So I am of the camp that most people that sit in a chair like mine love to throw out the word budget.
Yeah.
Like it's just free candy.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. I despise it with everything. And the way that I see budgets is, imagine you get a headache.
Yeah.
Right? You get a headache, you go to like a little walk-in clinic.
Okay.
And you're like, hey, doc, I have a headache. And he's like, well, I'll get the scalpel and the saw, and we'll just we'll cut you open and look at your brain. You're like, wait a second. Like, do we really need to go to brain surgery 3 minutes after I've walked in? You haven't even taken my blood pressure yet.
Yeah.
Right? To me, a budget is the financial equivalent of brain surgery.
Okay.
Like I'm an adult, you're an adult.
It's an interesting metaphor.
I do not need. So at some point, some people need brain surgery,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
But if you walk in here and you're saying, "Hey, I think my spending's a little bit out of whack," and I say, "Well, let's sit down and do a budget," you'd be like, "All right, are you going to follow the budget? Okay, if I just put numbers in front of you, like what are we actually accomplishing with the budget?" And that's why, like, it's really, really intentional in number one and number two, step 1 and 2. Like, I don't need you to build a budget day one.
Right.
Start paying attention.
Yeah.
That's all I need you to do. At the end of the next month, let's look at your debit card and your credit card statement. Let's see how much money you spent by totaling those two numbers together. Let's just see how much money you spent. Okay. Bill, how much money do you think you're spending right now today? I think I'm spending about $6,000 a month. Okay. Tell you what, let's set another appointment in 30 days. And I just want you to bring in your credit card and your debit card statement.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to look through every line item, right? Step 1, I just want you to realize you're actually spending $7,200,
Yeah.
not $6,000.
Yeah. That's huge.
I just want you to be aware of your spending,
Yeah.
right? And then step 2, we get into that find wasted money. And I do this all the time. Like I'll pull, like I personally use, like for all my monthly expenses, everything goes onto my Apple credit card, except for most of my utilities come directly out of my checking account because there's always those like convenience fees that they like to charge.
Yeah.
And you can get around them if you use your actual checking account, right? So
Right.
all my spending comes out of 2 accounts. And then, so on the Apple card, all your spending shows up. You have an app on your phone that you can scroll through very simply. And I'll do that sometimes. I'll just start scrolling through, and be like, oh, I can't tell you the last time. I'm not like the amount of money I'm spending on this is not the same amount of value that I'm receiving.
Yeah.
Right. Or that's a membership that I subscribed to like 7 or 8 months ago, and I don't need it. I don't use it. Like, I need to cancel it.
Yeah.
And that's where we're talking about find wasted money.
Yeah.
It's that stuff where it was good for a season, but now it's not necessary. Let's cut it out and let's free up $40.
Yeah.
Right. So now I just took $7,200 down to $7,100.
Yeah.
And it's incremental, right? It's small shifts over time. And that's why step 4 is repeat. Because again, if we do this again in 3 months, there's going to be something else that fell off my radar.
Yeah.
I was paying for something recently, and I had no idea that I actually subscribed to it. I got onto a service online, and it was to generate some legal documents via, like, I think I got on like LegalZoom or whatever it was. I don't remember which Shield, whatever. I don't remember. But it was one of the Rocket Lawyer maybe. And I filled out a document, and I thought I do remember paying like $17 for this document. But somehow in that process, I subscribed to a monthly thing. And this was all like 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And fast forward, I was looking at my stuff actually just a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, that's a monthly subscription. I didn't even know that I actually played. So
Yeah.
I was able to cancel that. But that's really what it is. I was wasting money. And without just taking that step towards awareness, I would have never figured it out.
Yeah.
I'll turn this over to you, but that last step is if my cash flow is hurting,
Yeah.
right? Let's say I thought I was spending 6, I'm spending 7,
Yeah.
and I'm only making 6,800. And so I go through and I start canceling some things to get my spending underneath my savings.
Yeah.
And at that point, I still can't make efficient my cash flows.
Yeah.
Maybe at that point, we go into that deep dive, like Excel spreadsheet, budget app. You need to track your spending every day. You need to put in things. You need to organize this. And maybe at that point, we go into brain surgery.
Right.
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think I was just thinking my wife and I just went through this. We were looking at our spending the other day, and it was eyebrow raising. Like, man, oh my gosh, like how did we spend that much money last month? And turns out we love to go out to eat. And turns out nowadays if you go out to eat, it's going to be $60 to $100.
Yeah.
you're not going to McDonald's, right? And McDonald's doesn't pay us for ads, by the way. And not only that, we did that 2 or 3 times last week. What in do we really need to be going out to eat that much?
Yeah.
You know, so it's easier than you think, because when you're out with friends or going out to eat, I couldn't tell you what I spent on the meal, you know, because I gave the credit card. I did it real quick, leave a tip. All right, now we're on to the next thing. 3 days later, I can't remember I even spent that money, right? And that's exactly what the credit card company wants, you know. But it's a lot easier to do than you think. And then what was funny was, we had some friends coming into town, and it was kind of right after we did this. And, now our goal in between now and then was we want to be saving more money and not wasting as much money. And so they were coming into town, and we were thinking about ways, well, how can, what are ways that we can, not eat out and do something fun? And so anyway, we wind up just doing tacos the one night, and we made like an obscene amount of tacos kind of on accident. We just like overguessed. And so we ate tacos like the entire weekend, like for snacks, dinner, whatever. And we just all love tacos. But the point is, it became like the joke of the weekend. And now they've been gone for, a couple weeks at this point. And we still just like, hey man, are you eating tacos today? And so like you can create memories doing other things.
Sure.
And so that's just something that came to mind when you were talking about that stuff.
Yeah. Real quick, McDonald's doesn't pay us, but we do have some sponsors. So let's take a second to hear from them, and then we'll be right back.
Perfect segue.
A few years ago, I had the privilege of working with a wonderful couple that had big goals and an incredible work ethic. They made sacrifices and achieved tremendous success, and even got to enjoy an early retirement. But tragically, the wife passed away after just 6 months of that retirement life. This experience shook me to the core and led me to reevaluate how I approach financial planning with my clients. I developed an ideology based on 5 pillars of fitness and happiness, and in no particular order, the pillars of finance, faith, physical and emotional well-being, and mental health. While I'm not a doctor, priest, or psychologist, I believe in the importance of addressing all of these pillars holistically alongside financial fitness. A few months ago, I decided to prioritize my own physical health. I focused on everything from eating well to sleeping better. However, I really struggled to find the right motivation to become a regular at the gym. That's when I reached out to an old friend and fitness professional, Sean Rodman. Sean has been a warfighter in the U.S. Army for 20 years. While serving, he acquired all kinds of fitness certificates and was designated to lead fitness programs for our nation's bravest warriors. Not just the fittest ones heading off to war, but also those injured and needing rehabilitation. When he retired, he started an online fitness company, Parabellum Fitness. He builds workout programs tailored to you, your goals, and even considers your old injuries. He also switches things up from week to week or month to month, so nothing ever gets old. In just a few months, I've experienced better sleep, improved mobility, increased energy, weight loss, and freedom from my old injuries. While I want my clients to achieve incredible financial success, I believe it's all for nothing if you cannot enjoy it. Go check out ParabellumFitnessLLC.com. That's ParabellumFitnessLLC.com. Follow them on Instagram or TikTok, really any social media platform. Go follow Parabellum Fitness and reach out to Sean. Set up your first month of programming, mention Money Therapy, and get 25% off. Let's not lose sight of all 5 pillars. Together, let's focus on health and happiness and put energy into creating the best possible life we can. After all, we only get one.
All right. So appreciate you guys listening to them. We do love Parabellum, and you guys should go visit their Instagram. All right. So the financial hack.
Yeah.
You said the closest thing is automating savings.
Exactly.
I think that people, so here's the thing is when it comes to the world that we live in, everything is about convenient, like pay conveniently. If you've ever heard of the comedian Mitch Hedberg, He talked about in one show, he's like, he always sees these shows for like 3 easy payments. And he was like, I'm going to make a product that's 3 easy payments, but 1 really difficult payment, It's a really funny bit, but the thing is we are getting into a world where everything is about like pay conveniently and pay quickly, subscribe, right? Pay, like set it up and then we'll just bill you a little bit every month or so, whatever it might be. The reason that companies are setting up these platforms is because they are preying on us as human beings of being creatures of habit.
Yes.
And oftentimes, if there is no resistance, we don't really question much, right? Like we're path of least resistance kind of people.
Like when it becomes more effort to cancel that thing than it does to just leave it.
Yeah.
And it's only $3 or $4.
And
like,
most
whatever.
of these things aren't hard to cancel.
Yeah.
But we don't pay attention because we got so many other things trying to compete for our attention, right?
Right.
And so again, it's like, oh yeah, I can pay $5 a month for this, or $30 or $70 a month, or $200 or whatever a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. And then once you set it up, the likelihood of you actually seeing that little ding on your credit card statement, they know that. They know they got you for a few extra months by the time you stop using it.
Yeah.
Right? So why don't we use that same psychology that we know corporations are using against us to profit millions and billions of dollars?
Yeah.
Why don't we do the exact same thing with our own finances to help us?
It's a great point.
Right? And so if we can look at like our own psychology and say we're creatures of habit, we're path of least resistance people, a million things are competing for our attention, and once I do this, I'll probably not even realize it's happening for a long time. Why don't we just automate our savings?
Yeah.
So once I go in and I realize, oh, hey, I was paying $40 a month for this and I don't even use it. I cancel it, frees up $40 a month. What should I do? Go over to my bank account and set up an automatic savings transfer, whether it's to a savings account or investment account. I don't care where it goes.
Yeah.
But you're saving it and you're going to click $40 to automatically transfer out.
Yeah.
Right? You were already spending on $40 on something you don't need.
Yeah.
Now you can take that $40 and put it towards yourself, your future self, right?
Vacation, even.
Vacation, right?
That would be a better, use of the money.
Sure.
Just to like actually treat yourself for,
Or
don't do that with all the savings that you find, but a portion of it. Like reward yourself in a way that actually improves your life or gives you some memories and things like that.
Yeah, these huge goals that we have. I was just on the phone with a client this week, and we talk about having a financial purpose.
Yeah.
And the purpose is above the goals. Yeah. So the goals are things we want to accomplish on the way to purpose, fulfilling our purpose.
Sure.
And their purpose was essentially, it was more about enjoying life and enjoying moments, and less about like wealth.
Yeah.
Per se, right? But one of the ways that they set up a goal, because they felt like if we can achieve retirement at 55, that goal helps facilitate that purpose of enjoying more moments together. Yeah. Because we'll have 10 extra years, more than the average person retiring at 65, to not have to work, and if we don't want to, and just have more flexibility in our life and in our schedule. And so with that, I had to build a savings strategies for this couple to get them to that point of being work optional by 55. And we're talking about the amount of money that they're going to have to save, and what that means to them, and is the sacrifice truly worth it? I think when we have these purposes set up, it holds ourselves accountable to a whole new level. Because now we're not just being accountable to a piece of paper that's saying, oh, hey, transfer $40 every month. Yeah. We're holding ourselves accountable to fulfilling our purpose in life.
Yeah.
And again, the only step that we really need to take in that, obviously you need to figure out what your purpose is and you need to develop these goals. But once you have all that, just automate savings.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the key point, and exactly what I was thinking too is, and we've talked about this in an earlier episode, but if you automate savings, you can avoid ever having to do a budget for the most part.
It's true.
And nobody really wants to do a budget. So let's say in your scenario, that means that they have to save, 20% of their income. And then, obviously with your own personal goals, you can figure out that number either by yourself or with a professional. But let's say in this instance, they need to save 20% of their income. If you automate 20% into the 401k, IRA, into the savings account, whatever you have set up for them, then that means, okay, everything coming into my bank account for this month is what I have to work with. And I could spend that on anything I want because my future self, like what our goal is, our dream, is as best as we can guess is going to be taken care of with 20%. And that check mark's done. So now I get to live on everything else, and I go on vacation with that money. I take care of my kids with that money. I, go have fun, and go out to eat with that money. But it simplifies everything. The other thing that's an interesting experiment, if you're right now, you're saving 0%, and you find out tomorrow, you take this episode, you go home and do a bunch of nerd math, and it turns out you need to be saving 20%. And you're genuinely afraid of going from 0 to 20. Start at 5%.
Yeah.
And then next month, go to 6%. The month after that, 7%. You can work your way up.
Yeah.
Don't take 30 years to work your way up. But over the course of a year, 2 years, play on that, getting used to your environment, getting used to living on the money that you are making, and get up to that, whatever that goal percentage is. And you're going to find it just from personal experience, from myself working with clients. I think you're going to find it a little easier than you think.
In a different life, I was in the military. Obviously, fitness is very crucial to what we did, and I was working with another soldier, a subordinate soldier, to try to get them in some better shape. And in the military, there's a lot of accountability, and there's you have as a leader in the military, you have a lot of ability to discipline subordinate soldiers in a whole myriad of ways. And this soldier, I was like, look, he put it according to Army standards, he could get into a lot of significant. He could lose his job for his body composition at that point in time. He wasn't able to maintain physical fitness standards, and just his general body composition was out of whack. And he could, and any leader could have just been like, "Hey, you're out." Right?
Wow.
There's a process in there, but nonetheless, we could have started the process to get him out of the military.
Yeah.
This is his career, right? So what I told him is I just wanted to see progress, and we defined what progress was. Typically most people will say that losing 2 pounds per week is a healthy weight loss goal. A little aggressive, but still in that healthy range. But for me, just simplifying as simple as possible, I was like, look, we need to really focus on caloric intake, right? So we said, okay, where are you today? How many calories are you taking in? So download a little fitness app and, started counting calories, and soldier was eating like 2,800 to 3,000 calories a day. Right. And so it's like, okay, in order to start burning weight in a healthy way and changing our body composition, obviously you focus on macros, you focus on all these things. But one of the things is we had to reduce his caloric intake. And really he should have been targeting probably closer to around 2,000 calories a day. But instead of going from 3,000 to 2,000 overnight and him just being super restricted and feeling like a failure every time he was at 2,001 calories, I was like, why don't we do this? Why don't we just do this incrementally over time? Like, I want you to, we're going to take 10% cuts once a month in our calories until we get down to 2,000. So we're going to go from 3,000 to 2,700. Yeah. And then we're going to go from 2,700 to, 2,430 or whatever it is. Yeah. And we're just going to keep incrementally coming down by about 10% of our caloric intake. And it never shocked the system. He was successful through the program. He stayed on track. He showed me progress every week, every month. And now the soldier's successfully still in the military, and even at this point, healthier than I am. So he did tremendous. But to your point, I think making those small incremental changes, that's how we win. And that is why there is a step 4 in this, which is repeat.
Yes.
So how often should I be paying attention to my spending, find wasted money, and automating savings? Is that something that I have to do every single day? Is that the repetitive nature of what we're talking about?
I think it depends on a couple of things. I think it depends on how introspective you are, and where you're at. If you have no discipline with money whatsoever, you've never been able to, or you feel like you've never been able to save a dime, you spend everything you've ever made. Yeah, you need to pay attention every single day. Every single day. Now, how you get there, we can debate. Okay, we'll start by paying attention once a week and then work up to that. But really, in order to develop, we're talking about overall developing a habit here. And you develop a habit once you get used to it, right? So in a perfect world, I would say, yeah, if you're that person every single day until we get a significant track record and you get used to everything. And then once you're used to everything and you feel that momentum and you're good, maybe once every 3 days, and then once a week, and then once every 2 weeks, and then once a month. But I'm talking probably over years of experience there. If you're somebody who, we've worked with what I call super savers. I mean, I just had, a new client come on and they're saving a ridiculous amount of their income every month. Just doing fantastic, and they still don't feel like they're doing enough. Like, you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. That person probably doesn't, again, with the automated savings, probably doesn't need to track spending that much unless they're looking for a little more sense of control over things. And sometimes I do feel that just by paying attention to where the spending is going, you feel more in control, even though you haven't really done anything different. So I think it just depends on where you're at in terms of discipline with your personal financial situation.
I'm going to agree with some of the things you said.
Yeah.
But I also disagree with a little bit too. I think where I agree with you is I think that there's seasons of our life where we realize things are really out of whack.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need to recalibrate ourselves or just calibrate ourselves for the first time ever. And sometimes that can take a focused effort, like we'd like to call those sprints. Like, we might need to go in this marathon of life and finance. We might need to sprint this next straightaway.
Yeah.
So that could take daily focus. But I don't really want my clients focusing on spending every single day.
Okay.
Outside of, like I said, if we're triaging something and there's something critically dangerous to your situation, that's the sprint. That's where we need to put 100% of our effort and energy into for a season.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that season can be very short. And you're right, it can take time to instill habits and behaviors. So we might need to have the repeat piece be frequent. I also think that there's times in life where life in general is very volatile.
Yeah.
Things like getting married, things, having a kid, moving. There's these changing jobs. Like, there's times of high volatility in our life where we probably need to put this on this repeat process on a more frequent occurrence.
Yeah.
And then there's also, I would say, like, people who make enough money. I think that they're at more risk of this lifestyle creep than sometimes people that don't make a lot of money. I think the people that feel like this is their episode, they're like, man, I need to start doing this because I'm living paycheck to paycheck. They're the ones that are going to be on repeat all the time.
Yeah.
It's these people that are making good money and they're like, you know what, like my budget's fine. Or my cash flow's fine.
Yeah.
I don't need to really, this isn't my episode. Well, I would beg to differ. I bet that if you have a gap between what you're spending and what you make, you're probably wasting more money on things you don't need. And now I'm not talking about like once you cross certain thresholds, like it is completely fine if you've worked hard and your income's at a great point, like you're making good money, buy the nice whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that you subscribe to a watch club.
Yeah.
And now you have 40 watches you never wear and you're still spending $150 on that, right? Like at some point, it's those people that think they don't need it that probably need it more often because they have the ability to just click subscribe to the next thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say I want my clients in a routine, normal kind of life cycle to be auditing their cash flow, their spending, and looking for that wasted money probably once every 6 months, maybe even once a year. On the flip side, when we're really trying to coach and mentor somebody through like that triage of critical risk,
sure.
I would say we need to be doing this once a week.
Yeah.
And really, and then to your point, like part of that weekly audit, I would say we have it in our email. Have an index card in your pocket. And every time you go actually spend money, I want you writing down just where you're at, how much you spent, and how you feel.
Yeah.
Right? Those 3 things down, because at the end of the week, when we do that audit, now we're tying not just our money to our spend, but our money to how we felt. I felt nervous. I felt like my car was going to get declined. I felt sad that I'd have to be so scared to buy groceries for my family, right? Like writing down these things because that is going to help instill control and outcome as well. So, but I definitely don't want to drive this notion to people that this is something that takes a lot of time. It's hard work to do, but it should never control your life.
Right.
Right. I don't want to try. I want to differentiate, like the habit that we're trying to create should not be something that also adds anxiety.
Right.
Right. This should be solving the anxiety problems.
Yeah.
So again, routine life. Like, I'm in the middle of a year that I'm just, things are just coasting along. Life is good. Check in every 6 months or so on just scroll through your credit card statement, your bank statement, make sure there's nothing being wasted, make sure all your savings is automated, nothing's shut off. Right.
Yeah.
And just repeat that process, right? Because you're always going to find something. Yeah. And you're always going to be able to do a little bit better.
Yeah. I agree I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And I don't even disagree with the timeline, with the 6 months to a year thing. I would say, would you agree as a caveat to that though, if your other goals are taken care of, that is appropriate? Like if you need to save 20% to meet X goal, would you say that, and they're not, maybe they're at 10 and they can't go above 10. Would you still think that, and they make plenty of money in that scenario, do you still think that the 6 months to a year is an adequate time frame for that?
You said they're saving 10 what do you mean? Like 10% of their goals being funded, or what do you mean?
Yeah, let's say their target percent from the previous example, they need to be saving 20%.
Okay, gotcha.
But they're actually only saving 10%. Mm-hmm. But they're in that category of things are kind of cruising, they have a nice life, all this, that person you painted. Do you think that the timeline of when they're tracking expenses, doing that part of the repeat cycle, do you think that should still be at 6 months in a year? Or do you think that should be more frequent? What do you think about that?
I think I would,
as a coach, from a coach's perspective, talking to this person.
I think the conversation that I would have is, first of all, if you just did a cash flow audit, and you're at 10% savings and you need to be at 20 for a goal. We're saying this is goal-based, right? Like we have a goal, so we need to be saving 20% of money to accomplish this goal on time.
Sure.
My first question would be is how important is this goal to you that you can't adjust what's going on in life to accomplish your goal?
Okay.
Right? So maybe life right now is more critical that I have to like, or maybe it might be my income. So maybe it's not that the goal's unimportant.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like right now, groceries are expensive and I just can't save anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one scenario. The other scenario is I have the money, I just never automated my savings. So that kind of, as a coach, tells me the goal isn't that important, right? Because they could have chose to save more money and they didn't. Either way, at the end of that conversation, my how soon should we do this again would probably be driven on like how soon can you start to change your circumstances, right? Like if you need to go make more money, how soon can you start making more money? Okay. If you need to start spending less at the grocery store, like is that even feasible? So now we're not like maybe for the next
Do you
few
have
months,
3 teenagers at home,
right? Like it maybe now the question isn't about doing a cash flow audit or paying attention to spending. I guess you're still kind of trying to pay attention to spending in this sense, but I'd just be like, hey, why don't we try different grocery strategies? You know, like what can we do about reducing the grocery? Is there anything? Are you already a coupon clipper? Like,
Yeah.
Are you already doing all this stuff? And if you are, maybe this is just your circumstance right now, and maybe we need to talk about adjusting that goal or setting more realistic expectations to how soon that goal can be accomplished.
Yeah.
And in the interim, it's less. I'm worried less about them continuing to audit their cash flow because I don't want them spending time just scrolling and deleting apps that they just looked at last week. I want them out trying to figure out new ways to make money. I want them to, write a book or start a social club or, like just make T-shirts for the local Little League down the street or, start a podcast, like whatever it might be. I want them to start figuring out what they enjoy doing to increase and doing what they want to do, doing what they're happy doing, but making money off of it. So I'd still say, like, again, if time's volatile, like just had a client move recently, moving, you spend money starting to prepare for a move, you spend money during a move, you spend money while you're settling in, and then you're kind of used to spending money.
Yeah.
That's how that lifestyle creep sets in.
Yeah. I
want them to be auditing their stuff probably more on a weekly or monthly basis, just so they say, okay, that was because that excessive spend was because of the move.
Yeah.
We knew that was going to happen, right? But then all of a sudden this week, well, the moving was done, spending was still high. It looks like we just got used to eating out a little more often than we should have.
So
right?
In other words, when things in life, and I think this is good advice overall, when things in life change or get abnormal, it's a good time to start paying attention.
Yeah,
whether
that's when I'm doing a weekly check-in.
Yeah,
that's when I'm doing my weekly check-in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like once I get settled and I've readjusted my spending back to where it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden I don't need to for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then just do a casual check-in, and then all of a sudden, like, hey, I get a new job.
Yeah.
It's time to check in once a week, right?
I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay.
And whether that's a wake-up call with your financial advisor saying that, hey, we need to save more, or it's we're going through a move, job change, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No, I don't think so. I would just say pay attention to your spending, find wasted money, automate savings, and repeat.
Brilliant.
HarpethWealthPartners.com for both Brandon and I's emails. If you want to join the Sunday series email, that's how you do it and get a hold of us there. Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube is where we're at. Please like, subscribe, and share this. We just like helping people and coaching. So I'm Bill McGill. It's Brandon Chastain, and we'll see y'all next week.
Later, guys. We hope you learned something valuable today. We appreciate you including us in your journey towards financial betterment. It is important to us that you know this is for educational purposes only and not to be considered specific advice for any individual listener. If something we discussed is relevant to you and you have questions about how it might be uniquely applicable to you, please discuss that with a financial professional, or, of course, we are happy to have further conversations with you about your specific questions, needs, or circumstances. We welcome you to reach out to us via our website, HarpethWealthPartners.com, or by emailing Brandon at bmc@HarpethWealthPartners.com. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice is offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and Harpeth Wealth Partners are separate entities from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not to be intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult appropriate qualified professionals prior to making a decision. Investing includes risk, including fluctuating prices and loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Hypothetical examples presented are not representative of any specific investments. Your results may vary. We want to thank you for your time, and we look forward to having you back next week.